Thank you for joining the Patriot Party show on this Saturday morning. Man, it's been a busy week, so let's jump right in. So the first story we're going to go over today is the acting U.S. Attorney of New Jersey, Helena Habba. The same Helena Habba who was a very, very staunch advocate of Trump and who was also a part of his legal team, a very important part of his legal team, said Monday she is charging Representative LaMonica McIver with assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. During the arrest of Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, outside a migrant jail in Newark 10 days ago. Now, this is what Habba said. No one is above the law, politicians or otherwise. It is a job of this office to uphold justice impartially, regardless of who you are. Habba said in a statement Monday evening, now we will let the justice system work. You know, I only really have one thing to say about that article. It's finally nice to see, and it's high time, that justice not be for just us. So after a phone call in which President Donald Trump did not require Russia to stop attacking Ukraine as a condition for peace negotiations, the Kremlin predicted Tuesday that the process would be long and difficult, suggesting Moscow will keep fighting until Kyiv accepts its terms. Now, this is despite Trump's exhortations for months that the fighting must stop immediately. In the course of Monday's phone call, Russian President Vladimir Putin managed to add a new delaying element to the process: the need for each side to draft a memorandum on the terms of a future peace treaty. There is no time frame and can be done, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told journalists Tuesday after Russia once more succeeded in deflecting pressure from an unconditional ceasefire before peace talks. Originally a U.S. proposal that was dropped by Trump and taken up by European leaders, Peskov added that this would be difficult and take time. The devil is in the details. Drafts will be drawn up both by the Russian side and the Ukrainian side. They will exchange these drafts, documents, and then there will be difficult contacts to formulate a single text. Now, I think personally, Trump realizes Russia doesn't want peace at this point. They are too heavily vested. They've spent too much. They've lost too many people. They want Ukraine. And, I mean, this has literally been a losing battle from almost the beginning. But I'm sure that if Trump steps out, which he has, indicated that he may do, he just made a deal with Vladimir Putin on mining, on oil and gas, and all sorts of other precious commodities. I'm sure that if he steps out, that that deal will be withheld, or not withheld, but upheld by Putin. Now, there was kind of a little bit of a moment that Trump had when he was visiting soldiers in France. Trump tells U.S. soldiers about historic Hitler moment that actually never happened. And so this is what he says. He says, we love France, right? But I think we did a little more to win the war than France did. Do you agree? I don't want to be a wise guy, but when Hitler made his speech at the Eiffel Tower, I would say that wasn't exactly ideal. Well, I have news. Hitler never made a speech at the Eiffel Tower. Now, the next story that we're going to go into, there's several stories we're going to do today that I absolutely don't agree with, but I'm going to try to convey the unbiased report before I even add in my own beliefs. So this next report, Trump has a new plan in dealing with his constituents and the tariff price rises. So now Trump is blaming the tariff hikes on the stores. So he's passing the buck. So people won't hold him accountable. President Trump attacked Walmart on social media Saturday after the retail giant became the biggest company so far to signal that tariff-related price increases are coming for American shoppers. Trump said Walmart shouldn't blame its price increases on tariffs. A lot of people think it's only Walmart, though. When I made posts, a lot of people, well, it's only Walmart. They've got billions of dollars, and we're going to go over that in a minute. And it wasn't just Walmart. It was Amazon. And yes, they're big companies. It was Mattel, and Trump threatened Mattel, the toy manufacturer, after it announced plans to raise prices due to tariffs, that he would impose 100% tariff on Mattel toys, stating they would not sell in the U.S., which is their biggest market, and even suggested removing the company's CEO. And I have to ask this now, when did it become okay for the U.S. government to threaten private businesses to run a specific way when they have shareholders and they're a publicly owned company, and then to threaten to get rid of the CEO? I mean, there is a clear line between the government and private business. And it seems to me that line has been broken. But that's not it. The U.S. automakers. Trump has cautioned domestic automakers against raising prices due to tariff-related costs. Ford was mentioned as warning it would need to raise prices on some cars due to tariffs, indicating it was among those pressured to absorb cost. Now, what happens when a company absorbs a cost, but it needs to make a certain profit margin? Especially when you're talking about a vehicle, which is life-saving or life-taking. They start cutting corners. We don't want them cutting corners in our cars and our trucks and our SUVs. And, then you got these people who say, well, they make billions. But nobody seems to understand. Even a multi-billion-dollar company that sells products has billions in overhead. So it's all about percentages, profit margins, percentages. Walmart made billions of dollars last year. Yes, he wrote in a post Saturday on Truth Social, between Walmart and China, they should, as it is said, eat the tariffs and not charge value to customers anything. He said, I'll be watching, and so will your customers. It's a very ominous thing to say. It also can have a very devastating effect, because public companies have shareholders to answer to. So they have to make a certain profit margin. Well, me being the kind of reporter, slash bringing bringing you information and breaking it down in my conservative opinion. I have an inquisitive mind, and I like numbers. So I started looking into numbers, Walmart's profit margins. And so Walmart has a huge range depending on what you're talking about, what products you're talking about, in profit margin. It ranges from as low as 5% to as high on some things like home decor as 50%. But if Walmart were to eat the tariffs, they would lose money on a large portion of their items and cut way into profits on others, which operating costs could easily cause a retail store with such high overhead to go under. I want people to understand that a multi-billion-dollar company can go under just like any other business. If they're paying billions in overhead, then their money can get eaten up really quick. Now, maybe they can hold out because they got more of a nest egg than some of the smaller companies, but the end result is going to be going out of business. Now, to me, attacking businesses is a dangerous anti-American move. They could actually get businesses boycotted by Trump's following and put the businesses out of business. Then that overhead we were talking about would cost Americans countless jobs. You would lose your job. And then now with this new tax bill, it's going to be harder if you lose your job to get government subsidies and help while you're trying to find another job. And if you think about it, okay, so it starts with Walmart and Amazon and Mattel and bigger companies. But then Americans, they start thinking, well, if I shouldn't pay tariffs here, I shouldn't have to pay tariffs anywhere. All businesses should eat the tariffs. My prices shouldn't go up. Nobody's looking at Trump and everybody's looking at the other businesses. And it spreads like wildfire. And any business that charges tariffs could be ridiculed. Then you are between a rock and a hard place. Because either way, you shut down, you do massive layoffs, you're not making the profit margins, and it all leads to the same result. Multi-billion-dollar company or small or mid-sized business. I'm very disappointed with this strategy. It is a very dangerous strategy. Now, I'd like to go over a showerhead owner of a company, salesman. He did a test to know how much more customers would be willing to pay to buy products that were made in the USA. And they came out and said the answer could pour cold water on President Trump's plan to encourage more companies to open factories in the U.S. Now, let me go on to explain why they said that comment. So the guy, verbatim, quotations, says, I wanted to see how many people would actually pay for the more expensive made in the USA version. His name is Van Meer, and that's what he said. So he set up an online experiment on his website where customers can already choose from various finishes like chrome and nickel or black for their domestic or for their shower heads. Van Meer offered two options: the imported shower head for $129 and a domestic version costing about $100 more. Now, this is how he came up with the price of what the made in the U.S. would cost. So the higher price for the domestic option was based on what it would cost Van Meer to stitch together a supply chain from scratch. One company to handle the plastic molding, another do the metal plating, and a third to supply the special filter that removes chlorine and heavy metals. There is not one single company making a product like that in the U.S. today. And if Van Meer wanted to start, he figured he'd have to charge about 85% more than he currently does for the imported version. Because we just don't have the infrastructure. We have talked about this. This is the answer to Trump's effort to encourage more domestic manufacturing. This is the answer to it. So let me give you the results. The results were not even close. Of the more than 25,000 people who visited the website during the 2-week trial, about 600 ordered the imported shower head. Not one single person clicked on the more expensive made in the USA model. People are going to always go with the less expensive. That's why when this first happened, I said you need to put tariffs only on the things that we produce in the U.S. Don't try to reinvent the wheel or take us back to the textile days, which is, it's almost pie in the sky. Let's put tariffs on what the U.S. produces that other countries produce to even the playing field, to stimulate U.S.-based companies that are already here in the U.S. But don't go up on everything because you're gonna kill the U.S. consumer. My fiance told me the other day. She says I was talking to one of my medical friends, and she said her husband had to go get new tires, and the tariff on the new tires was $700 extra. People can't afford this. This next story, I have to say I'm very disappointed in the two people that it involves. So the name of the story was Trump FBI official sends MAGA into a tailspin by debunking fevered conspiracy theory. But that is a very misleading name. Because actually what happened is Dan Bongino posted that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. I don't think he said, I think this is what Patel said, Kash Patel. Quotations, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregation housing, you know a suicide when you see one. Really, you've worked in the system. There's a reason why those guards were just gone or fell asleep. And that's what that was, Patel said during the interview. But my biggest rebuttal to this whole thing, we could go on and on about, small details, but the big detail is, what about the brothers' independent exam by a world-renowned pathologist who said all signs pointed to strangulation? We were promised all these lists that were going to be declassified. And they're still redacted. We can't read the list. I feel like we are being lied to by the only people we thought would give us the truth. To me, it's like, shame on y'all. Shame on y'all. I really felt, that there was going to be, a different way, more transparency with this administration and the intelligence services. So Trump has an exchange with an NBC reporter for asking about the jet that was being given by Qatar. a jet that's going to cost at least $1 billion of taxpayer money to upfit as Air Force One. And both Republicans and Democrats are worried about espionage. What chip is in there? Is there a Chinese chip in there? What chip is in there that will not be found during the upfit that could be used to obtain sensitive information? There's nothing wrong with Air Force One. I don't know why we need to spend $1 billion in tax money when you're cutting all these social programs for money for this tax bill to raise the debt ceiling and do all sorts of other things that are going to cost trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars over the next 4 years to upfit a plane that we don't really need. But is it because it's the newest one out? I mean, newest Boeing out? I don't know. So he tells this reporter, he said he was a bad reporter who wasn't smart enough to be a reporter and he should be ashamed of himself. Then he went on to give fake news. Now, you know, I said this with a Democrat, but by golly, it seems like this is going with the Republicans as well. This whole thing with fake news. They're putting out so much of it. Trump's putting out a lot of it. Let me tell you what he said. And let me tell you the reality of the situation. So he went on to say, after he degraded and belittled a reporter for asking a legitimate question, you know, I mean, Qatar is a known terrorist state. You know, why are we taking, I mean, I understand taking a gift. I mean, they give us this $400 million plane, but it should go toward do something else. You know, the Air Force use it for something or whatever. Not Air Force One. So then he goes on and tells all the reporters, maybe y'all should be more worried about the $5.1 trillion investment into the U.S. I got from Qatar. He actually got a long-term pledge over the next decade, over 10 years, for $1.2 trillion. 1.2 for 10 years. That, a lot of things can happen, over 10 years. But 1.2 trillion is a far cry from 5.1 trillion. So you didn't actually get money. You just got a pledge. Well, we'll give you this over 10 years. Very misleading. And then out and out lie about how much it actually is. The Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, blocks religious charter school. This would have been the first of its kind, and U.S. taxpayer money would have had to pay for the school. Now, when I first heard about this, and then fighting for this, the first thing that came to my mind, and I have nothing against religious schools, but the religious denominations, especially Catholic, which is what this was, they have plenty of money. They have way more people that live in the United States who worship and give alms to them. And I think that is a clear and present danger to the violations of separation between church and state. Now, you know, I'm not saying I believe one way or another if the separation between church and state is right or wrong, considering a lot of our laws are based on religion, and there's things on our money and God we trust and all that kind of stuff that contradict the separation itself. But I don't think taxpayer money should go towards, because if it goes towards this denomination, there's 2,000 or more just Christian variations, different Christian religions. Christianity in itself, there's over 2,000 different sects. should we build schools for all them? And then where does it stop? Do we build schools for all the other different religions? So I agree with him there. Now this big beautiful bill of Trump's that he's come out with that have more things in it that I disagree with that I'm not even going to go over. I would be happy to discuss it if anybody wants to message or go and DM our. We have links to our social media. So if anybody wants to go, DM me on X or message me here on Spotify, I'd be happy to talk about that. But let's talk about his new bill hitting home, hitting somewhat of the heartbeat of America. There was a commitment from Trump that there will be no Medicare cuts, even though they are digging deep. I don't see how that commitment can be true. But here we are tonight because, as has been explained, the size of the deficits will cause something called the Pay-As-You-Go Act. And that would trigger sequestration of Medicare, not Medicaid. And we all pay in to have Medicare benefits. So this would cut into what the American people pay to give huge tax write-offs to the wealthy. And I know people are saying, well, but they're not gonna tax tips and they're not gonna tax overtime. And they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that. Most everything other than the tax breaks for the wealthy have an expiration date. And those are mostly in 2028. So they're looking at cutting Medicare, not Medicaid, which is something you paid for, by over $500 billion over the next course of several years. That's $500 billion. $535 billion in cuts to Medicare. Trump and Harvard are going at it. Let's break this whole thing down. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration, through Homeland Security, revoked Harvard University's ability to enroll international students on Thursday, and is forcing existing students to transfer to other schools or leave the country. Now, this has sparked significant controversy, with Harvard calling the move unlawful and arguing that it undermines its academic and research mission. From a constitutional perspective, this action raises several legal questions with legal scholars. One, is this a due process Fifth and 14th Amendment violation? Harvard may argue that the government's decision violates procedural due process by not providing adequate justification or opportunity for the university to challenge the revocation. The Equal Protection Act under the 14th Amendment. And if Harvard can demonstrate that the decision disproportionately targets its international students based on nationality or political beliefs, it could raise an equal protection claim. First Amendment, freedom of speech and association. The government cited Harvard's handling of campus protests and diversity policies as reasoning for the revocation. If this action is seen as retaliation for political expression, it could be challenged as a violation of free speech rights. Contractual and administrative law violation. Harvard may argue that DHS is overstepping its authority under federal education and immigration laws. So a federal judge has already intervened, blocking the government from changing international students' legal status until legal challenges are resolved. Personally, I believe Trump is trying to make an example of one of the most prestigious schools over the protest. And they did get violent, and Harvard did not handle them correctly, in my opinion. But from confirming reports, Harvard was willing to work with Trump's anti-Semitism task force, but then the administration made more unconstitutional demands in hiring and admission policy. No liberal ideology can tell, you can't tell people what to think or believe. That violates a whole new slew of constitutional rights. You know, it's one thing not to have the people that you hire, now students are a different story, pushing ideologies and force feeding them to people that don't want to hear them. But not hiring them because that's their belief and they keep it in their head. And then it's my belief that existing students in Harvard with a foreign visa ought to be grandfathered in and not made to leave Harvard and find another school in the middle of their education program. That's detrimental. So the latest news is Harvard University said it is seeking a temporary restraining order on Friday to stop the Trump administration from blocking foreign student enrollment. Ivy League school condemns Trump officials' blatant violation of Constitution and retribution, and they have filed a 72-page lawsuit. The lawsuit describes a blatant violation of the U.S. Constitution and warns that it will have an immediate and devastating effect for Harvard and more than 7,000 visa holders. I like the task force idea. You're going to work with us. You're going to allow us to come in and make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm not too happy with going after private universities. It just doesn't make me happy. This next article really doesn't make me happy. So Trump threatened Apple with a 25% tariff if it does not start producing iPhones in the U.S. Separately, the president said that a potential 25% tariff he threatened on a social media post Friday morning against Apple Inc. smartphones would also apply to devices from Samsung Electronic Company and anybody that makes that product, and that his administration was moving to impose the levy by the end of June. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair, is what Trump said. So, you know, Apple is American-based. Now, either way, I don't like it. But how do you threaten a company that is based out of South Korea? It's a South Korean-based company that they have to produce their products in the U.S. Let's switch that around for a minute. What would Trump be doing if China, to one of our big industries that they buy a lot from, said, if you don't come produce your product in China, we're going to punish you, to a U.S. company? We wouldn't like that. And I do not like the government threatening private businesses. It's very bad practice, and it's very questionable on a legal standpoint. Trump says talks with the EU are going nowhere. He will implement a 50% tariff in June. Now, just the other week, Trump said talks with the EU were going great. Verbatim, Trump saying there would be a deal 100%. But that was a false narrative, because at the same time, there were other reports coming out that indicated that trade talks between EU officials and the U.S. made little progress, with U.S. tariffs on EU goods like steel and aluminum remaining the sticking point. We can't afford it, Senate GOP balks at House mega bill as messy fight awaits. So it made it through, this mega bill, this big, beautiful bill, made it through to the Senate. There's a lot of the Senate that don't like it. And there's a lot that don't like it for all sorts of different directions. Who knows what's going to happen. So Senator Lisa Murkowski, I believe she's from Alaska, railed against the bill's work requirement for Medicaid. Senator Mike Rounds said the spectrum auction plan, championed by President Donald Trump, has got to come out. Senator Majority Leader John Thune did not embrace the New York House Republicans' big tax deduction win. And Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, I do like him, who has been one of the Senate's most vocal critics of the House's Medicaid plans, is eyeing another big change as well. He wants a more robust child tax credit than the $2,500 included in the House bill. It needs to be higher. Then there's a gang of Senate fiscal hawks vowing to cut far deeper to federal programs than even the hardliners' House Freedom Caucus. And they were like wanting to crazily cut, things down to the bone, shoestring federal programs down to the bone. This next story is a little, to me it's a little enlightening. I realized that this was going on when the papacy was, being chosen by the cardinals, but I didn't realize this was going on within the church itself. So the Bible contains repeated invocations from Jesus to show deep empathy and compassion for others, including complete strangers. He's very clear on this point. Moreover, Christianity is built around a fundamental act of empathy so radical, Jesus dying for our sins, that it's difficult to spin as harmful. Yet, as stunning as it may sound, empathy is a sin, is a claim that's been growing in recent years across the Christian right. When did Christianity or any other religion become political? Like, we got a right, we got a left, that none of that's mentioned in the holy books, the Quran, the Bible. Yes, you've got extreme people that take it extreme as jihadists, people like that. That has nothing to do with politics. Left, right, this, that. And then that makes me think, no wonder Pope Francis told us we needed to let immigrants in, because religion has been made political and it spilled over. He felt like he had the right to do that. Now let's get into tech news. So Google I/O 2025 announcement, Google Beam, a previously Project Starline, this 3D video conferencing technology uses AI and a 6-camera array to create lifelike, immersive calls. It's transitioning from research to a commercial product with partnerships like Zoom and HP to bring devices to market later this year. Early testers include Deloitte and Salesforce. Gemini 2.5 Pro with Deep Think mode, Google upgraded AI model now features an enhanced reasoning mode for complex math and coding tasks, leading the LM Arena leaderboard with significant performance gains. It also integrates with Google Map, Calendar, and Task for seamless functionality. AI-powered search mode. Google introduced an AI mode for its search engine, expanding use cases with features like live video searches, deep searches for complex topics, and personalized insights via Gmail integration. This aims to counter competitors like ChatGPT and Perplexity. Imagen 4 and Veo 3, new AI tools for advanced image and video generation were showcased, enhancing creative applications across Google's ecosystem. Android XR for smart wearables, Google announced updates for smart glasses and wearables, signaling a push into augmented reality. Now, the Computex 2025 had some highlights held in Taipei. This major computing show featured keynotes from NVIDIA, AMD, and Qualcomm, emphasizing AI integration in laptops, PCs, and networking. ASUS unveiled AI-supported workstations and solutions for healthcare and creative industries, while Synology introduced AI-enhanced surveillance tech, like identifying specific car models and footage. NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, highlined showcasing cutting-edge AI chips, though attention was partly diverted by discussion around U.S. trade policies under President Trump. Other notable news: Apple's brain computer interface. Apple partnered with Synchron to develop tech allowing disabled users to control devices with thoughts, a step towards broader accessibility. And some of this technology is just good gracious. And a lot of it is just so much towards AI. I think we just have to be very careful we don't overstep those bounds. Now, Fortnite has returned to iPhone after a legal dispute with Apple. Epic Games resolved issues, bringing Fortnite back to the U.S. iPhone App Store. AI talent wars. OpenAI, Google, and xAI are competing fiercely for top AI researchers, with OpenAI's recent loss of CTO Mira Murati to her own startup intensifying the race. Tech layoffs. Despite innovation, layoffs continue, with companies like Sophos, 6% of workforce, and others cutting jobs in 2025, some after pushing AI tool adoption. Now, this is the same thing I said. These businesses are going to get all this money from the government, and it's supposed to stimulate jobs, but it's cheaper for them to cut their workforce and let AI take over a lot of it. So let's see what really happens to this money. Financial news, market movements, and macro developments. The U.S. credit rating downgraded. Moody's downgraded the U.S. sovereign credit rating from AAA to AA1 on May 16th, citing a $36 trillion federal deficit and rising debt servicing costs under high interest rates. This rattled markets, contributing to a sharp Wall Street decline on May 21st, and the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow falling as Treasury yields spiked. The CPOE Volatility Index, VIX, surged 15.4% to 20.87, reflecting heightened investor unease. Now, the U.S.-China trade truce, a 90-day tariff rollback agreement between the U.S. and China, announced earlier in May, continued to influence the markets. Tariffs on Chinese goods dropped to 30% and U.S. goods to 10%, boosting global equities earlier in the week. However, uncertainty persists as the deal's temporary nature and the exclusion of low-value e-commerce exceptions keep businesses cautious. Stocks like NVIDIA is up 4.5%, and Tesla 7.8% rallied on May 12th, but gains tapered off by week's end. The global market reaction, Asia-Pacific markets fell after Wall Street declined, driven by fears of a new U.S. budget bill adding to the deficit. Japan's finance minister noted U.S. debt concerns at the G7 meeting. Meanwhile, European markets saw gains, with the UK economy growing 0.7% in quarter one of 2025, and Eurozone employment up 0.3%. Corporate and sector highlights. Retail sector struggles. Target cut its 2025 sales outlook, expecting a low single-digit decline due to weaker discretionary spending. Tariff uncertainties and backlash over DEI rollback shares in United Health dropped over 10% after suspending its 2025 forecast and announcing CEO Andrew Whitty's immediate exit. Tech and crypto gains. Coinbase surged 9% after its inclusion in the S&P 500, replacing Discover Financial Services, marking a milestone for crypto. Nvidia's stock rose 27% in 3 weeks, fueled by $16 billion in AI GPU orders from China's firms like ByteDance and Alibaba. Earnings beats Cisco Systems plus 4.9%, Deere & Company plus 3.8%, and Dillard's actually went up 6.1%, reported strong quarterly earnings surpassing Zacks consensus estimates, boosting their stock prices. Financial services strengths, stocks like OPFI, which is plus 37.4%, and Morex Group saw positive analyst revisions, with Zacks ranked number 1 due to strong earnings process. So this is policy and economic outlook. House Republican tax package, a sweeping tax and spending cuts package approved by the House Ways and Means Committee, aims to make 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act provisions permanent and includes larger child tax credits, overtime tax exemption for hourly workers. Now remember, that's not permanent. It includes an increased standard deductions for lower and middle class income seniors, but cuts to Medicaid, food stamps, and EV tax credits could impact some groups. Economic data, a light economic calendar, featured initial jobless claims at 229,000 prior, S&P Global U.S. Manufacturing PMI at 50.2 prior, and new home sales negative 3.7% as expected. Investors are also eyeing upcoming inflation for tariff-related impacts. Now, let's get to the celebrity news and gossip. Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial and testimony. Description: the second week of Sean Diddy Combs' racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking trial began on May 19th, 2025, with singer Dawn Richard testifying about witnessing Combs physically assaulting his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Richard described incidents of Combs punching, choking, and slapping Ventura, adding significant attention to the high-profile case. The trial continues to draw widespread media coverage and public interest. Celebrity deaths. Ben Rothman. He died May 19th. The 90-Day Fiancé, before the 90 Days star, known for his relationship with Mahogany Roca, passed away at age 55 after battling with stage 4 stomach cancer. His death was mourned by reality TV fans. George Wendt, May 20th, the Cheers alum, famous for playing Norm Peterson, died peacefully in his sleep at age 76 with no cause of death specified. His family announced the news, noting his recent appearance at an Emmy event with nephew Jason Sudeikis. Kathleen Hughes, on May 19th, the actress known for her role in It Came From Outer Space in 1953, died at age 96. Her friend confirmed her passing on Facebook, highlighting her stories of old Hollywood. Celebrity engagements. Lindsay Chrisley and Thomas Malora. On May 9th, the Southern Hospitality co-stars announced their engagement after 3 years of dating, with Malora proposing during a vacation near Saint-Tropez, France. James Maslow and Caitlin Spears, the Big Time Rush star, proposed to his longtime girlfriend on the Amalfi Coast in Italy, planning a romantic moment with the help of locals, as confirmed by U.S. Weekly. Justin Bieber concerns and TMZ investigation. Description: TMZ investigates what happened to Justin Bieber, aired on Hulu, exploring allegations of Bieber's drug use, financial struggles, and strained marriage with Hailey Bieber. TMZ highlighted fans' concerns about Bieber's shrinking social circle, with some claiming he's isolated due to ties to a controversial church. Additionally, Bieber admitted to a past argument where he told Hailey she'd never be on the cover of Vogue, coinciding with her gracing the magazine's summer 2025 cover. David Geffen files for divorce. Entertainment mogul David Geffen filed for divorce to end his less than 2-year marriage, as reported by TMZ on May 17th. The filing drew attention due to Geffen's prominence in the entertainment industry, though details about the split remain limited. Victoria and David Beckham family tensions. Description is a TMZ report on May 19th, 2025, suggested that Victoria and David Beckham's public image as a happy family masked behind the scenes tensions. While specifics were not detailed, the report sparked gossip about the potential family discord. And soap opera casting changes. For the week of May 19th, Beyond the Gates introduced Tamika Sariti and Anastasia, a gossip columnist, while Days of Our Lives found Peter Reckel and Bo Brady, well, they've been on for a minute, whose character is in a coma, raising speculations about his storyline outcome. These casting updates generated buzz among soap opera fans. Now, let's get to sports. So, I really didn't even know they played this. Flag football in 2028 Olympics. The NFL announced that its players can compete in flag football at the LA 28 Olympic Games, a historic inclusion to boost the sport's global reach. NFL rule changes at the NFL's May meeting. Proposals like banning the tush-push play failed, while discussions on playoffs receding and a new NFL award were highlighted. There's not been a final decision made on reseeding, but it remains a topic for future talks. Bears offensive line extension. The Chicago Bears secured a major contract extension, for a key offensive lineman, strengthening their roster. Aaron Jones milestone. The Minnesota Viking running back made history as the first undrafted player to reach 10,000 career rushing yards, earning widespread praise. The WNBA season kickoff. The WNBA season began with a doubleheader on ABC featuring the defending champions New York Liberty and Caitlin Clark's second-year debut with the Indiana Fever against the Phoenix Mercury. NBA playoffs. The New York Knicks advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals with their playoff bracket update generating a lot of buzz. Games continue Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. We have some injury impacts. The NBA playoffs saw injuries shaping outcomes for teams like the Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, Denver Nuggets, and Golden State Warriors, with key takeaways for next season noted by Sports Illustrated. MLB highlights. Players Weekend scheduled for August 15th through 17th. This event will focus on players' off-field interest and causes the MLB promoting it heavily. Rivalry Weekend, the first ever MLB Rivalry Weekend held May 16th through 18th, featured Juan Soto's return to Yankee Stadium for the Subway Series, Chris Sale and Garrett Crockett pitching in Boston, and the Minnesota Twins carrying an 11-game winning streak into Milwaukee. Wednesday night games, a full slate included the Phillies and Angels chasing 6 straight wins, a Dodger-Diamondback NL West showdown, and top pitchers like Jacob deGrom and Corbin Burns on the mound. Bizarre first pitch. Sports Illustrated reported a particular MLB first pitch, dubbed potentially the most bizarre in history, sparking viral chatter. College basketball transfer. 2-time All-Big 12 selection Williams is transferring to NC State to play under first-year coach Will Wade, a significant move for the program. Live golf expansion. Following the PGA Tour's lead, Live Golf, or LIV Golf, I don't know if you pronounce it live, added 4 influencer-inclusive events this season, aiming to broaden its appeal. So, the weather impacts. A sluggish storm system is set to bring rain and thunderstorms to the central southern U.S. during Memorial Day weekend, potentially affecting outdoor sports events like baseball and soccer. AAA predicts record travel of 45 million people, which could complicate game day logistics. And Nike price hike. Nike announced price increases of up to $10 on some adult gear starting next week, citing tariff impacts which may affect sports apparel costs. And the company has also resumed selling on Amazon after a 6-year hiatus. So let's get to some new movies. We have Lilo and Stitch, which came out yesterday. It's a Disney live-action remake of the 2002 animated classic following Lilo, a lonely Hawaiian girl, Mai Kaola, who befriends Stitch, a mischievous alien fugitive. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, released yesterday, May 23rd. The 8th and potentially final Mission Impossible film sees Tom Cruise return as Ethan Hunt, racing to destroy the AI threat, the Entity, and stop villain Gabriel Garcia Morales. I saw the previews of that. I haven't watched all of these Mission Impossibles, but I actually looked halfway decent. Fear Street, The Prom Queen. It was released yesterday, and it was based on a R.L. Stine series. This Netflix-bound horror film transports viewers into 1988 Shady Side, a town plagued by eerie events. It's a nostalgic slasher for fans of the franchise. Where to watch is streaming on Netflix. Hurry Up Tomorrow. That released back in May 16th. It expanded this week. Description: a psychological thriller starring Jenna Ortega, Barry Keoghan, and The Weeknd, directed by Trey Edwards Schultz. The plot follows a man grappling with addiction and depression in Detroit after his stepfather's death, navigating a web of personal criminal challenges. Deaf President Now, released back in May 16th. This drama recounts the historic 1988 protests at Gallaudet University, where students rallied against the appointment of a hearing president, demanding a deaf leader. After a week of intense demonstrations, their efforts led to the resignation of the hearing president and appointment of the deaf dean. Sister Midnight, same late or 16th release, which is a little while ago, last week. A dark comedy horror about a woman in an isolated religious community who kills her abusive husband, awakening a supernatural beast. As a witch hunt ensues, the community unravels. And this got a very high score with something called Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of these movies don't get high scores, but I don't really pay attention to them because half the ones that don't get high scores, I thoroughly enjoy. And then the ones that get high scores, I think they're the weirdest movies I've watched. So I'm not going to call that one way or another. I haven't seen it, but that's how I feel about these places that score these movies. Fountain of Youth, it's streaming as of yesterday. It is a mythical fountain of youth blending action and intrigue, and you can watch it on Apple TV+. The Surrender, streaming May 23rd, and it got another one that got a high score, so it streamed yesterday. And it explores themes of sacrifice and resilience through specific plot details. Are sparse on this. Cheech and Chong's last movie is streamed yesterday. Comedic documentary chronicling the iconic duo's career, blending nostalgia with humor. So it's a comedy legacy, and you can watch it streaming on platforms like VOD. Restless, it came out yesterday. Drama into intense personal struggles. The plot specifics are very limited on this one as well. The Protector, streamed yesterday, an action thriller about a former Special Forces operator seeking vengeance after a personal tragedy. It's a gritty, high-stakes story with echoes of classic revenge. And it's streaming on a lot of unspecified platforms, but VOD as well. So new shows. 9 Perfect Strangers, Season 2. It premiered May 21st. It's a Hulu drama. Returns a new group of 9 strangers at the Zauberwald Wellness Retreat in the Austrian Alps, led by Nicole Kidman. So that's obviously on Hulu. Gordon Ramsay's Secret Service, that premiered on the 21st, 9 p.m. A new docuseries about Gordon Ramsay as he dives into high-stakes culinary missions, blending his signature intensity with investigative storytelling. And that network was Fox. Big Mouth, Season 8, final season, premiered yesterday. Netflix's longest-running scripted series, this adult animated comedy, wraps up with its 8th season. Forget You Not, premiered yesterday, a new Netflix drama series exploring emotional and romantic entanglements through those specific plot details. We don't have a lot of them. Pee-wee as Himself, premiered yesterday. I don't know how I feel about that. Description is a 2-part HBO docuseries delving into the life and legacy of Paul Reubens, a.k.a. Pee-wee Herman, exploring his quirky persona, career highs, and personal challenges. It says a nostalgic look at a cultural icon. Couples Therapy, and that's on HBO. Couples Therapy, Season 4B, premiered yesterday. It continues on Paramount Plus with Showtime following real couples navigating therapy to address relationship issues. The Chai, Season 7, came out yesterday. The ongoing season of this drama series about life in Chicago's South Side continues with new episodes. Expect intense interpersonal drama and community struggles. RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star, Season 10. Wow, I did not realize they had 10 seasons. They started yesterday with a new episode. The reality competition continues with new episodes showcasing drag queens competing for the crown with extravagant challenges and runaway looks. Walking Dead, Dead City Season 2 premieres tomorrow. And Maggie and Negan return in this Walking Dead spinoff, navigating the post-apocalyptic Manhattan. So that appears on AMC. Rick and Morty, Season 8, premieres tomorrow. 11 p.m. The adult animated sci-fi comedy returns with Rick Sanchez and Morty Smith. Diving into a new multiverse adventure, expect absurd humor, existential themes, and fan favorite concepts like interdimensional chaos. The Librarians, the next chapter, premieres May 25th. Description is a spinoff of The Librarians. This TNT series follows a new team of magical librarians protecting ancient artifacts and battling supernatural threats. That's TNT. And the last one, the Rick and Morty, if I did not say, the network and platform is Adult Swim. I haven't heard of that. And last but not least, for new shows, is Secrets of the Zoo Down Under Season 5, which premieres tomorrow at 9 p.m. The Nat Geo Wild series returns with new episodes showcasing the daily operations and animal care at zoos in Australia. And it premieres on, obviously, Nat Geo Wild. Now to the final pick of the week. Now, this is one that is acquired taste if you like horror, and I do. I'm going to recommend this. It is the new Exorcist, The Believer. It came out in 2023. It was a direct sequel to the 1973 classic, The Exorcist. And I'm not even going to read the description that I've got here because I feel like that will give away some of the movie. But I liked the movie. I thought it was well put together. And I ended up buying it. So if you like horror films, you like possession films, it's a good film. You can get it on Prime Video. You rent it for $5.99 or buy it for $14.99. I think it was on special when I got it. Or Geo Cinema, select regions, digital purchase, rent for $5.99, Apple TV, YouTube, Google Play Movies, Microsoft Store, and Flix Fling. I did think it was streaming somewhere. You may want to look into it. I tried to look into it and couldn't find it, but I'm almost sure that on one of our networks that we have, a streaming network, that it was showing up. Now I don't know, and I'm pretty sure that network doesn't push rental videos. So I don't know. It may take a closer look if you really want to watch it and you want to watch it for free. But it is the new Exorcist. It came out in 2023. Exorcist the Believer. Thank y'all for so much for tuning in today, and we will be back same time, same place next week. Please tune in then. We're always trying to stay on top of the newest news, the most relevant news, and give y'all a good outline of what it is, and then outline what it actually means, what it affects, and those kind of things as well. So, hope you enjoyed the show. You guys and gals, have a great week, and we will see you next weekend.